Good afternoon, everyone. For some of you, this has been a very long month studying a course that has a very long title, Rapid Expert Assistance and Cooperation for Conflict Prevention, Operations, Crisis Management, and Post-Conflict Rehabilitation. And I'd like to welcome you to this 18th closing ceremony of the REACT course. Now, we have a long program ahead of us, and so I'll just briefly tell you what the ceremony will be like. In the first place, we're going to have a closing lecture by Mr. Antonio Cortina, and he has offered to answer questions at the end of the session. Now, I'd like to remind you that this is a closing session, so if you have questions, please be brief, okay? And then we have Ms. Silvia Escobar, who you all know, and she's been one of your trainers. She's with us here today. Ms. Nieto, the president of Helsinki, España, and one of your students will be giving us a short presentation as well before we have something that's new, which is a video of the course, so you can laugh at yourself or be serious or whatever, let your hair down before you leave, before we have the closing speech. That's the program for today. So we'll go right into our program, and I'm going to call on Mr. Antonio Cortina to give his talk. Thank you.
My idea is to give you a brief overview of the global outlook after the crisis, because in fact, for emerging economies, for most emerging economies, at least in Asia, in most of Asia and in Latin America, the crisis has not been deep, has been short, and it's clearly behind us. Things are going relatively well in most of these economies in those areas. And in fact, in the United States and other developed countries, the recovery is not as rapid as it could be. It's not as rapid as in previous but at least the US is growing at something like 2%. They are doing relatively well. So the focus here, the focus in this moment is in Europe, in the Eurozone. And particularly, and that's why I will finish with some comments on Spain, in peripheral economies who have very deep problems, who are going through a long and deep recession. So the idea is, are we close to the finish? Are we going to see a recovery in Spain in peripheral economies in the Eurozone? So that's why I will spend more time dealing with the Eurozone problems and with Spain. No? You can see in this graph the growth, world growth, and the idea is that the world is growing. This year, the world economy will grow at 3.5, close to 3.5. Next year, we are expecting something close to 4%. So this is not as good as in the years before the crisis, but it's a good result. No? The thing is that this recovery is very uneven. We can see that emerging economies are working at full capacity. Unemployment rates are relatively low. And they are going at their potential rate. Potential rate is the rate, the trend rate, the rate that can be maintained in the medium term without disequilibria, without rising inflation, without external deficits, without problems of debt, and so on. No? So things are doing very well, are going very well in emerging economies, broadly speaking. I know that some specific countries have big problems. But in advanced economies, the unemployment rates are high, very high in countries as Spain or some others in southern countries in Europe. And growth is very low. In fact, in the euro area, we are in a recession. We have 7 quarters with negative growth. No? So here is the problem. No? There is financial instability, very low growth, and problems about the future of Europe, if the euro is going, if we are going to further integration, if there is a risk of a breakup, there is still some instability, there is still some problems that we will see. No? The good news is that the risks for this forecast are much more balanced than just 1 year ago. 1 year ago, the world was going through a very difficult situation. There was speculations about a euro area breakup. There was a big risk for the US economy because some people thought that the government, well, the Republicans and Democrats in the US will not agree to reduce the fiscal deficit, and a sharp fiscal contraction was a possibility. And with Europe in a very weak position and the United States with a significant risk of a recession, then the world could drop again in a global recession, and that could have been a very created big problems for the world as a whole. So even in advanced economies, we have different positions. So here in the US, we see that they are growing at 2%. This is a very low rate of growth because after a big recession as this one, the usual response is to see some years of very high growth. This is not the case, but at least they are growing at 2%. Unemployment rate is dropping, and the recovery is gaining strength and will go further in the next few quarters. But the problem is with Europe. Europe has dropped again in recession. We are still, or we are again for the second time in a few years in a recession. Unemployment rates are rising, and there is a significant instability in financial markets. And the situation is even worse in peripheral economies. I have here the GDP growth for Germany, is this one. They're still at around 0%, but in the case of Spain and Italy, the economies are dropping at something like 1.5 or even 2%. No? So we have here big problems. No? Why things are doing so bad in the Eurozone? Well, when the crisis started, the European institutions, and specifically core countries in Europe, Germany, Finland, the Netherlands, said that, or the assessment was, the crisis is due to the imbalances in the periphery. Countries as Spain or Italy or Greece or Ireland had external deficits. They were borrowing to non-residents. That is the current account deficit that shows how much money are you asking to the rest of the world. It was 10% of the GDP in the case of Spain. It was even more in the case of Greece. In the case of Portugal was very similar. And that is not something that can be sustained in the long term. You cannot be borrowing money all the time, no? Because debt begins to increase and increase and is unsustainable. No? Many countries of the peripheral economies had housing bubbles. Housing prices had been rising very much for a number of years. They had problems of competitiveness because inflation had been very high, and when you have a monetary union, you cannot devalue your currency. If your prices are rising more than in the rest of the area, you have problems of competitiveness. Exports cannot do well. There were problems also with debt. Private sector debt had been rising very much. There were problems also with the banking sector, especially in countries with housing bubbles. And all these problems should be resolved to settle the basis for a recovery. No? And it takes time. No? So the assessment was, peripheral countries, you have to resolve your problems, the domestic problems of your economies. And this was what was happening during all this time. This is the risk premia. That is when some countries are borrowing money, the interest rate for Germany, for instance, is very low because you know that there is no problem with credit to Germany. You are going to have your money back, for sure. But this is the difference with borrowing money from countries as Spain. And you see that every time the interest rate that was demanded for Spain was higher and higher because the markets were putting into question the solvency of the country. And through all these years, the interest rates for Spain was growing. And it's the same case for Italy, it's the same case for Greece, for Ireland, and so on. No? In spite of the measures that all these countries were taking, the risk premium was rising and rising. No? So there was something else. We had more problems in the Eurozone. It was not just a question of the imbalances of the national economies. It was a question of the institutional weakness in the euro area. They are also to blame. No? What are the problems of the Eurozone? Well, we knew that the institutional design of the monetary union of the Eurozone was not the right one from the very beginning. In fact, Romano Prodi, that was the president of the European Commission, said in 2001, "I'm sure that the euro will force us to introduce a new set of policy instruments. Politically, it is impossible now, but someday there will be a crisis and the new instruments will be created." And this has been the case right now. No? We can see a good institutional framework, that is the case in the United States, compared with the institutional framework in Europe. When the crisis came, the Federal Reserve, that is the central bank of the United States, cut interest rates dramatically. And they began also to lend money to financial institutions to face the crisis. With lower interest rates, the crisis is not so high, it's not so dramatic, because investment can show some recovery. The debts are not so terrible for households or for non-financial companies. It's easier to give the money back with lower interest rates and with liquidity. There is not any problem if you have this kind of answer, or at least as not as dramatic as it could be the case without this reaction. At the same time, banks had problems in the US, but they had a good framework to resolve banks that were under problems without systemic problems for the financial system as a whole. So the FDIC closed dozens of banks through these years without any problem for the economy as a whole. And systemic institutions, the big banks that could create problems if you close, because the interrelations with other financial institutions and with other countries, they created the TARP. The TARP was designed to recapitalize big institutions. So they don't have a banking crisis as high or as important as could have been the case. They had interest rates lower, and as the private sector demand growth of private consumption, growth of investments, dropped very substantially during the crisis, the public sector response was to increase public expenditure and to reduce taxes. So the public sector was offsetting the reduction in private demand. No? That's why things are doing well now in the United States. It's not a full recovery. Unemployment rate is still relatively high, but little by little they are establishing the basis for a recovery. They are growing at 2%. That is a good result if we take into account the big problems that the US had just a few years ago. In the case of the Eurozone, there is not the so-called lender of last resort. The thing is that in Spain, in peripheral economies, interest rates for public debt have been rising very fast in the last few years. The difference, as I said before, of the interest rates for a bond, a German bond and a Spanish bond, rose up to 6 percentage points. That is very high, because it established the bottom for borrowing for the private sector. And the reason was that the European Central Bank was not designed to lend money to financial institutions without any limit, as was the case of the Federal Reserve. That means that if foreign investors leave the country, then interest rates tend to rise, because there is no demand for Spanish bonds or for peripheral bonds, broadly speaking. And in the case of the US, it doesn't matter, because the central bank begins to buy these bonds, so interest rates begin to be lower. But in the case of Europe, it was not the case. So a country that the market thinks that is insolvent will become insolvent if there is not a response from the central bank, because any country can afford so high interest rates. The second thing is that there was not fiscal co-responsibility. The fiscal deficit in the US was 10%. The public debt in the US was 100% of GDP. In the case of the Eurozone, the fiscal deficit was just 3%, and public debt was 70% of GDP, so much lower in both cases. So there was a margin to react, to increase public expenditure in the Eurozone. But we are not a country, we are a number of countries. So Germany is not going to respond for the public problems of Portugal or Greece. So what is relevant here is not the position of the Eurozone as a whole, but the position of every country. And some countries had problems. So the solvency of these countries was threatened with the markets. That's why we need a fiscal union. That's why we need a political union. Because if not, every country will have to deal with the problems, and some of them will not be able to respond and will not be solvent and will go to a deep crisis for a long time. And finally, there is not one European financial system. There are national financial systems. That means that if there are problems with the banks of a country, and you need to recapitalize those institutions, you need to give them more capital to deal with the losses of non-performing loans and so on, is the national government who have to put the money. And if the government have problems because of the deficit, because of the public debt, cannot recapitalize banks. And if banks fails, then the recession is deeper. That's why we need a banking union. If we have a banking union and there is a problem with an important bank in France or in Spain or wherever, then it will not be the national government who will respond to these problems. They will not have to put the money for the national financial system, but will be the European Union. So that will be much easier to resolve all the problems that we have now. No? What are the alternatives? We cannot go ahead with the Eurozone without a banking union, without a fiscal union, and without a central bank that can lend money to financial institutions when we have problems. So the alternatives are a breakup of the Eurozone or deeper integration, banking union and so on. All players have strong incentives to go ahead with integration. First, the European Central Bank doesn't have any interest in a breakup of the euro because it would manage its own extinction. There is not any sense to have a European Central Bank if there is not a euro. So they have all the incentives to go ahead with integration and to avoid a breakup. Germany is not interested either. No? They don't want to put the money to solve the crisis of other countries, but if there is a breakup with new currencies, the new Deutschmark will tend to appreciate, because the peripheral economies will tend to lose money, to lose value. No? And Germany is growing basically through exports. If they have a significant appreciation of their currency, then exports will tend to drop because they will not be competitive for a number of years. They will have to adjust the competitiveness of the country, and for a number of years they will not be able to grow at a significant pace. And at the same time, they have their banks have lent money to banks of other economies in the euro area. So if there is an appreciation of the currency, the value in the national currency of these lends will drop substantially. So they will lose money, they will have a banking crisis, and again, growth of Germany would drop very substantially. So there is not any interest for Germany to break up the euro. Peripheral economies don't have alternative strategies. In a world like we have now, countries, smaller countries as Portugal or Greece, who have not a clear competitive advantage, whose exports are not doing well and it's difficult for them to grow by themselves, need to belong to a broader area. And in fact, not even Germany is big enough to play a major role in the world right now, unless in the future. No? They need to belong to a broader area, to the European Union, to have a significant role in the world. We have seen in the last few years that discussions on climate change or geostrategic discussions, each time more the main players are the United States or China. Germany by itself will not be big enough or powerful enough to have a significant role in the world. No? That's why the euro area is not only an economic project, but also, or not only a political economic project, but also a political project. No? It's not only economic reasons who are behind the European Union. No? The thing is that when you have a crisis, to resolve it, you need to pay, you need money. And when there is not a clear framework to resolve crises, nobody wants to pay. At the end of the day, to resolve a crisis is who pays the crisis. And if there are not clear rules before the crisis, then the discussions take a long time. That's why to resolve this crisis is going to take a long time. We have 4 years with different agreements between Germany, Finland, between all the countries involved in the European Union, and it will take much more time to have a clear institutional framework, to have a fiscal union, to have a full banking union, and to have a political union. And that means that instability in the markets and the recovery of the European economy will take time, because markets need to have full confidence in the euro, in the future of the euro, and in the future of the European Union. If there are risks of a breakup of the euro, even if these risks are very low, then confidence in southern countries or confidence in the euro area as a whole will not be high enough to support growth, because we will not see direct investment coming from other countries. Banks will have problems for a long time, and instability of the markets will weigh on Europe. Investors will tend to prefer to invest in the US or in Asia or in Latin America or wherever, and not in a country without a clear and a strong institutional framework. So we need to resolve the crisis, further reforms at a national level. Governments need to continue with strong structural reforms to improve their competitiveness, to improve the flexibility of their economies, to strengthen the solvency of financial institutions, and to improve the fundamentals of their economies. And that means that all these reforms are not good for growth in the short term, because they create uncertainty in investors and households and so on. No? So it's very difficult to see, in a context of reforms, a significant recovery in growth. That's why we think that Europe is not going to grow very fast in the next few years. At the same time, we need, at the European Union level, a roadmap for integration and burden sharing to create a full fiscal union. And it will take time, it will take a lot of time. We have seen some good news, we have had some good news in the last year. We have established the basis for a banking union. There is a common supervisor for all financial institutions in Europe, or especially for systematically important financial institutions. That is a very, very important step. This year we will have also a common resolution system to deal with banks that are in crisis, and that is very important. Probably it will not be approved in the next few months, because we have elections in Germany. This is something that is very unpopular in Germany. But looking at 2014, we will have almost a full banking union, and that is basic to resolve the crisis and to go ahead with integration. And we need the European Central Bank to support growth, because both reforms, the national level reforms and European Union reforms, will take time to see the effects of these reforms will take time. And in the meantime, we need liquidity. We need low interest rates to support growth. And the European Central Bank is not doing well its work now, because there is monetary fragmentation. The money is not flowing from one country to another as before the crisis. Prices of stock exchanges and housing prices are still dropping in many countries, and that makes it very difficult to see the European Central Bank decisions to have effects on the real economy. And that's why we think that we need to see more coming from the European Central Bank. We need new decisions, not only cut interest rates, but to see also interest rates of the financial markets, interest rates of lending to households and non-financial companies, to see that they are also very low. That is not the case right now. No? So probably in the next few months we are going to see further actions of the European Central Bank. Well, finally, Spain. Well, it's not clear if you look at the papers, if things are improving in Spain or not. You have news about the jobless rate in Spain that is hitting new records. The unemployment rate in Spain is 27% of the population. That is very, very high. But at the same time, you see that there are a number of reforms coming from the government. We have seen a reform of the labor market that is very important. We have seen a reform of the banking system, especially for the saving banks, that were the ones that had big problems. And it seems little by little that things are improving. No? Why Spain has had such big problems? Now, what is the situation right now? Well, First, we have to take into account that Spain between 1994 and 2007 was growing very fast for the standard of an advanced economy, not compared with Asia and so on, but Spain was growing at something close to 4% for almost 15 years. And the thing is that when you are growing very fast for such a high number of years, disequilibria in different areas come. Disequilibria in the form, disequilibria in the form of external position and competitiveness. Spain was borrowing money for the equivalent of 10% of their GDP. The housing sector had a bubble. In Spain, housing starts were in 2007 800,000. That is more than in Germany, Italy, and the UK together. That has not any sense. Housing prices have been growing at 15% for 7 years. That is unsustainable. It cannot be. It has not any sense. Private sector debt was growing very fast because interest rates were very low. There was fiscal imbalances. The public deficit had been rising fast, especially in 2008, 2009. The labor market framework was terrible. You can see, for instance, that in 2008, 2009, GDP dropped 5% in Germany. It was very similar in Spain. But the unemployment rate in Spain rose 10 percentage points, and in Germany it grew just 2 percentage points. This is because the labor framework was not right in Spain. In Germany, the response was to reduce wages and to reduce working hours per employee. In Spain, the response was to fire people, to reduce the payroll. And it was terrible for the economy. No? And finally, we had the banking sector exposure to real estate was very high for a number of institutions. No? So the crisis depends basically on the starting position, the policy response, and the confidence that this response creates in the markets and in households and non-financial companies. In Spain, the starting position, because of these reasons, was much worse than in most European countries. The policy response in the first stages was not the right one, because the government thought that it was a cyclical crisis and not a structural crisis. And the confidence has been very low. There is not confidence between investors. There is no confidence even among the national governments of Europe, and this has implications on the decisions in Europe and so on. And that's why the crisis has been so long, and it's been so long now. Are we resolving the problems or not? Well, we see that the current account deficit, that is the money that you borrow to the rest of the world, was 10% of GDP in 2008. Right now we have a surplus of 1%. So that means that the change has been very deep. And in fact, it has been deep without devaluation because we are in a monetary union. No? So it's a clear success of the Spanish economy. It shows that we are improving our competitiveness. No? And in fact, if you look here, exports, from the beginning of the crisis, exports in Spain have been growing at the same pace that in Germany, that tends to be a very competitive economy. No? So we have a competitive sector in this economy. Exports are doing very well. The problem is that the size of the export sector in Spain is much lower than the case of Germany, but it's growing. No? So things are improving clearly with external accounts, and competitiveness in Spain is improving. In the case of residential investment, the housing bubble, I said before that we were building housing permits or housing starts, housing construction, more or less is the same. It was almost 900,000 per year. Right now we are in 40,000. This is the levels that we have in the 50s in Spain. No? So the adjustment is down. The contribution of the residential investment to the GDP that was very positive during all these years has been very negative during the crisis, and now is very close to the bottom. No? So we think that the housing sector adjustment is almost over. And in the case of prices, we have seen an accumulated drop in housing prices in Spain of 35% so far. No? So we think that we are now, housing prices are fairly valued. The problem is that with a recession, prices will drop below the fair value for a number of years. No? That's why we think that still we are going to see further drops in housing prices in the next future, but we are relatively close to the bottom. No? So again, the adjustment in the housing bubble is close to the end. No? So things are little by little improving also in this field. In terms of fiscal policy, it's very difficult to reduce the public deficit during a recession, because public revenues tend to drop with the recession, and because public expenditure tend to rise during the recession because you have payments to employees and so on. No? But in spite of the recession, Spain has been able to reduce the deficit from 11% of GDP to 7% last year, and this year will be close to 6% of GDP. No? We have a lot to do here again, but things are improving. No? Most of the adjustment is behind us. Okay. Debt of the private sector. The problem during the crisis was that both households and non-financial companies tend to spend more money than their revenues. That is what this means, no? For the equivalent of 12%. For every 100 euros that we had as revenues, we was spending 112. That is not sustainable. That is why debt was rising every year more and more. No? But now we have seen that private expenditure has been dropping very fast, and that's why we have now a surplus. So we are now able to reduce the debt. We have now this buffer to reduce the debt little by little. We need to reduce still for a number of years the debt, but we are in the path to make it. Now we are improving again. In the banking sector, we had problems, especially with some companies, some saving banks that have been nationalized. We have made an analysis. The government, the European institutions, the private sector has been also involved in the analysis of the banking sector. And we saw that these institutions, doesn't matter the name, basically they are saving banks, need capital. This capital has been provided by European institutions, so things are now better. No? The saving banks are well capitalized, and little by little they will be able to lend money to the private sector that is essential to see a recovery. No? So things again are improving in this field. Well, as conclusions, I would say that progress in 2012 and 2013 has been very significant. There is a change in the strategy to deal with the crisis in Europe. They not only blame to domestic problems for the crisis, but also for the need. They see the need to reform the institutions in Europe, and they are going ahead with those improvements, though it will take time. In Spain, we have seen a labor reform that has been very deep and will help to support the growth of the GDP and employment in the next future. We have seen a financial reform that is basic, because without credit it's very difficult to grow. We have seen also a reduction in the public deficit, and we have seen a significant reduction in private debts. Still, the adjustment is not over. That's why we think that in the short term, growth is going to be very low. And in fact, this year we are going to see a new recession, both in the Eurozone and in Spain. But things are little by little improving. We have a number of challenges. To go ahead with the banking union, with a single supervisor, with a single resolution mechanism that is basic to have banking union. And in Spain, we need the implementation of the financial reform, to see the restructuring process in those institutions that have been intervened. And still, we will have a very bad legacy of the crisis. Basically, an employment rate that is going to take a long time to see a significant reduction from the current 27%. But things are improving. Reforms are going ahead in Europe. We are seeing a significant movement in integration. Spain is compromised with the reforms. Sometimes are not as fast as we would like, but things are little by little improving. And that means that not in 2013, probably not in 2014, at least very significantly, but from 2015 and beyond, we will see the Eurozone and Spain again growing at a more satisfactory rate of growth. And that's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Antonia, for telling us that although the picture looks so black, there's hope ahead of us. Now, are there any questions at this time? Go right ahead. Antonio, I don't know if you'd like to be... Huh? Oh, after? Okay, I've been advised to wait after the session to invite questions because of time constraints. Okay? So I'll now call on one of your favorite teachers, as I can see, Miss Silvia Escobar, to address you. Thank you.
Well, good morning, and I'm so happy to be here now with you. I would like, first of all, to thank our host, Mrs. Ana Alvarez, as well as the participants in the course, especially, of course, the trainers, the Helsinki, Spain staff, and you, the trainees. I feel very privileged to have participated here as a teacher and tried to explain a little of the intricacies of human rights and diplomacy. And of course, I hope to have explained well that something that we know, that human rights are part of international relations and that they are more and more important in the foreign policy of every country. And also that the relation between human rights, development, security is very obvious. The role played by non-governmental organizations is also very relevant, as you all know. I also felt very privileged to have been here in the presentation of Mr. Bernardino Leon, the former Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs, especially because I heard your questions, and your questions were very intelligent, and I think, and very relevant, and you contributed with a lot of wonderful information. So I was told that this was a fantastic group. I would have been here more if it was not because of the hip replacement operation, but I know that you are a wonderful group. Hopefully, you will go back to your countries with a better knowledge of the theoretical framework to solve the problems that you will encounter in the field, the nature of peacekeeping operations, the challenges, etc. You know it by heart. But the course, of course, was also aimed to have more practical knowledge. And you do have that. First of all, because many of you work already in international organizations and in NGOs or in this field, and you have certainly the will to do so in the future. I hope that the course will help you in that endeavor. I hope also that you will keep in mind, and welcome to this wonderful child and this lady there with the beautiful child. That's absolutely fantastic. He will be doing a lot of things to work for peace in the future, I'm sure. And please do not forget the contribution of women to the peace process, the peace negotiation, the peace prevention, and so on and so forth, as stated in the famous 1325 resolution of the Security Council. So don't forget that. We don't see enough women in negotiations, and we need more women. We do. I imagine, of course, that the range of topics have prevented you from enjoying the fun of Madrid, the entertainment, the tapas and all that. And I was told that you had not very fine weather, so that will probably have consoled you a little bit, because look at this, we normally have that at this time of the year. So, but I hope that you had time to have some entertainment and so on and so forth, and to have strengthened your ties, because the important thing after that is that you have a lot of more friends, and that you have, you know, increased your relations, and that means a lot. Of course, learning is an ongoing process. I'm finishing. After this month spent in Madrid, I hope that you will equip to be more successful. And you may turn to us, Helsinki, Spain, for anything that you need. And this is our closing ceremony, but it's not, I hope it's not the closing, and not the end, but the beginning of our concerted efforts. So thank you again for your participation. I wish you lots of success, good health, and a very, very safe trip back to your countries. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Silvia. I'll now call on the President of Helsinki, España, Ms. Nieto, to address you.
Dear friends, congratulations to all of you for your very good performance and successful completion on this RIAD course. You have made a good impression on the teachers. You are in position to work better than before and to consider the importance of improving your job every day. You are qualified expert able to work in international organizations through their agencies in the field or among their staff, or maybe with your governments and or NGOs in your home countries or abroad. Many of you already have a job in this area. A short message. I would like to ask you, as alumni of Helsinki, España Human Dimension, this is our complete name, to be and to continue to be a good example to protect the human dimension in your environment. The world needs examples, references, and indicators to encourage and achieve the common and individual good in society. Life is full of conflicts because people are conflictive. But if you promote conflict resolution in your job, as you have learned in this course, the best solution that you can offer is to be a very good example of promoting integrity and peace. We have confidence in you. You are from today an alumni of the RIAD course. I hope that you will keep in touch, and we hope to receive your suggestions and initiatives for new programs, as well as recommendations for future students of RIAD. Please don't forget us. I want to give thanks to the authority who have joined us and appreciate the support of all institutions that have made this course possible, particularly Ambassador Silvia Escobar for your participation and support of the RIAD course. You are always available for all of Helsinki, España programs. Thank you. Mr. Antonio Cortina, Deputy Director of Research Santander Group, congratulations for your brilliant lecture. Thank you for your time, for your ideas in this day. The Santander Bank has helped us from the very beginning to realize this program. Without their support, around 400 people from 60 countries would not have been able to benefit from this permission training and to find jobs in international organizations. Mrs. Ana Alvarez, Director of Business Development and Public Affairs, EOI Business School. The school always opened this door to Helsinki, España programs. Thank you to the entire team, especially Patricia de la Puente is here. We have been very comfortable and very well attended. I ask Anna to continue the agreement that we are signed this year. And finally, to the Helsinki España team, Maria, the program director, and Adriana and Maricel, coordinators. You are an incredible family because you have worked in 3 projects at the same time. The 3 have done the work of 9. Incredible. But I'm not forget Rose Sukhraj, member of Helsinki, España. Thank you for your help in this ceremony and in all moments that we ask you support, and Rose always says, yes, I come. Thank you very much for everyone.
Thank you very much. We're now going to reverse the order, and the participation will come from you. We go into the awarding of the certificates. And what I'm going to say, as you hear your name, please come forward. Have we got the certificates here yet? Yeah. Please come forward to receive it, and in an orderly fashion, because I know everybody wants to take photographs, but we can do that after. It goes in this order. Is it in this order? Okay, are we ready? Yeah. From Russia, we have Rishat Abdul Ghazin. Sorry about that.
Thank you.
Thank you. I can't stand and bend, so I'll sit. Okay. Bangladesh, Ishtiaq Ahmed. Thank you. Cameroon, Eta Kelvin Ayuk. Zimbabwe, Shepherd Chitstama. Argentina, Annabella Corridioni. Congratulations. Ireland, Jane Dundon. Congratulations. Spain, Job Ferrando. Congratulations. From Spain, Ana Guisasola. Kazakhstan, Nurgul Makashiva. Congratulations. Spain, Raquel Mora. Canada, Patrick Moreau.
Thank you.
Congrats.
Yeah, thank you.
Spain, Emilio Moreno. Congratulations. From Kyrgyzstan, Mahabat Murzakanova. Congratulations. Cameroon, Rene Yamshi. Congrats. Spain, Vanessa Paraiso Coca. Spain, Maria Teresa Sebastián. Congrats. Argentina, Valeria Stoffel. Congrats. Cameroon, Jude Thaddeusuri Viga. Congrats. From Uzbekistan, Lola Tishabaeva.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Congrats. And from Mexico, Sol Saraje Torres. Congratulations. Thank you very much. It looks different now because I can only see smiling faces. I'm now going to call on Patrick Moreau, a student from this REACT course, who has something to tell you. Patrick. Surprise.
So there will be three of us briefly sharing our experience with the REACT class. It feels really lovely to be here with everyone, and thank you. As it was mentioned, my name is Patrick, and I'm Canadian. So I'm proud to be here, and as well I'm proud to be representing my part of the world, the Americas. As with many of my colleagues, it has been a great privilege to take part in this 18th edition of the REACT Expert course. Before beginning this course, the importance and the meaning of the term human dimension was unclear for some of us, and however, during the course of this program, the guest speakers, such as Silvia Escobar, thank you, professor and expert in human rights, help us in understanding the significance, the relevance, and the application of this concept. Human dimension speaks of the Helsinki Final Act and guiding principle of respect for human rights and fundamental freedom, including the freedom of thought, conscience, religion, or belief. As we learn, these guiding principles are crucial in conflict prevention, operation, crisis management, and post-conflict rehabilitation. In addition to these great learning opportunity provided in this training, beside the academic aspect, there's been some great practical courses as well. This last would like to acknowledge that our learning of human rights issue was enhanced by each other life experiences. So each one of us in the course, each one of us knowledge and worldview And furthermore, the creation of these new friendships developed during this program expanded our perspective of the world we live in. We created connection and we made new friendship. With this last point, I would like to give the podium to my new friend, Shepherd from Zimbabwe.
Thank you. Thank you very much for this opportunity. I will just state, I think, about two things which are so special about Helsinki. Firstly, its ability to draw experts from different fields of study, different fields of works, who came to give us their practical experiences, their testimonies. All these people have made an impact into the global peace and conflict issues, development, and therefore this actually reshaped our careers, reshaped our way of thinking, and we also expect to go and make an impact as we go and engage in different activities in the field. Then secondly, I would want to say we have an orientation as to how to formulate a transformative, conflict-sensitive approaches to conflict resolution, and this is also important given the political context which is currently existing across the world, in Africa, Asia, and elsewhere in the world, and therefore we need the need for multilateralism in conflict resolution, multi-track diplomacies, and all the other approaches that may be relevant. And from this course, I actually realized that together we can make the change that we desire. So therefore, I urge you all, let's come together and probably profile our ideas together so that we can make the change that we desire. For now, I give you back to Lola, one of our colleagues here.
Thank you very much. It is a great pleasure and honor for me to stay here and express unlimited gratitude on behalf of our friendly international group. Our unlimited gratitude to Helsinki, España for providing us with such intensive course, with organizing all activities that are really amazing. So we are thankful to Helsinki, España for giving us opportunity to mature and gain theoretical and practical skills that will, of course, pave our way to a bright future, and not only our bright future, but also enable us to be more effective, efficient for those who in need. So be more specific and to be effective as we can, as it's possible. So, of course, this was quite intensive course, but we still had our time enjoying Madrid. So, and I would like to thank Helsinki, España in my own native language, and to give opportunity to other students to thank Helsinki, España on their native language from bottom of our hearts. So, katta rahmat Helsinki, España.
Merci beaucoup, Helsinki, España. Tenotenda, Helsinki, España.
Berwi, Helsinki, España.
Gracias, Helsinki, España. Gracias.
Ayomnakia, Helsinki, España.
Rahmat, Helsinki, España.
Rahmat, Helsinki, España. Gracias, Helsinki, España.
Gracias, Helsinki, España.
Gracias, Helsinki,
España. Görmel mahkut, Helsinki, España.
Gracias, Helsinki, España.
Olek, dhonnobad.
Gracias,
España.
Большое спасибо, Хельсинки, Испания.
Muchas gracias, Helsinki, España.
Gracias, Helsinki, España.
Thank you very much and well done. Okay, at this time, I think Helsinki, España has prepared a commemorative video of the course. So please sit back, relax, and enjoy. We've almost come to the end of this closing ceremony, but before we bring the session to a close, I'm going to call on Ms. Ana Alvarez, who is the Director of Business Development and Public Affairs of the EOI Business School, to give the closing speech. Thank you.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's been impressive, really. My congratulations to you all. I am really delighted and honored to be here sharing with you this closing ceremony. But I would like to first excuse our General Director, who would have loved to be here with you, but he hasn't been able to make it. So he's asked me to represent him, to congratulate you, and to send his best wishes for your professional future. There are many people to thank here, but I'm just going to mention a few ones. So I apologize for the rest. Our standing appreciation must go to Ana Nieto from Helsinki, España, for giving us the opportunity to collaborate on this REACT course and to host it in our facilities. And I am sure that we are going to extend this agreement. Some other special people who have to be thanked are all speakers and faculty members because they have shared with all of you and with us their knowledge and expertise. And we have here Silvia Escobar and Antonio Cortina. Our appreciation to all the staff from Helsinki, España, Maria, Adriana, and Maritel, and special mention to Patricia de la Puente from EOI, who works hard so that I can have a great image in these events. So thanks, Patricia. Of course, thanks to all of you, the participants, because you are the reason why of our existence. And congratulations for the great results that you have had in your teamwork, and congratulations for the high intellectual level of the group. This is what the faculty members have told us. You have been 20 attendees with different profiles from 11 different countries. We have listened to you, and you are from Canada, Argentina, Mexico, Bangladesh, Russian Federation, Cameroon, Zimbabwe, Spain, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, and Uzbekistan, and all of you with a common interest in conflicts resolution and post-conflict rehabilitation. You're going to take away, apart from memories, great knowledge and great benefits from this course. And I encourage you to keep in contact with all your colleagues. This is a great advantage that you're going to take away. And just a brief explanation of why we decided to collaborate on this REACT program. About 2 years ago, EOI received a positive certification from the United Nations Global Compact for aligning its strategies and operations with the 10 universally accepted principles that they define in terms of labor, human rights, environment, and anti-corruption. So one of our missions is to embrace, enact, and support within our sphere of influence this set of core values. And this has been a good sample fit. And now we are here today enjoying and being a part of this great initiative along with Helsinki, España, with which we share ideas, experiences, and values. And it's been a pleasure to participate in it. Now this course is almost over. And during it, I'm sure that you have been transformed into elements which may add greater value to society. The responsibility is now yours. You have a great responsibility to put your knowledge into practice. And finally, to all of you who are on the program today, I sincerely congratulate you for receiving this certificate. And I want to let you know that we are at your disposal at EOI Business School for anything you may need in the future. I wish you all the success in your development, in your cooperation missions. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Anna. Now, just before I bring this session to a close, I'd just like to remind you of two things. One, there's a customary group photo before you all leave. And secondly, those who have questions for Antonio, he's going to be here to answer your questions. Sorry we didn't put it within the session. Right? I concur with Anna in that without you, we wouldn't have a course. And without the support of all our sponsors and organizers, we wouldn't have a course either. I wish I could thank you in all the languages you have spoken today, but unfortunately, I can only do it in English or Spanish. Anyway, thank you very much. You have come to this course, and you're leaving with a rich body of knowledge, experiences, friends, and you've been in a multicultural and multilingual environment. We'd like to believe that we're your friends as well, so please keep in touch with us. And we'd like to hear from you and to know what you're doing, your ideas, recommendations, and suggestions, okay? So on behalf of Helsinki, España, I'd like to thank you all for choosing this course. And I wish you all a safe journey and every success in the future. Thank you very much.